The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
It's better than indoor plumbing. It's better than electricity. It's better than the thermos bottle. That's right. It's the 2017 Matt Talk Online Digital Fan Guide Division I Preview, simply calling it The Guide. Over 200 pages digitally delivered to you March 14th. Pre-sale. Pre-orders available now, matttalkonline.com/fanguide17. Listening to this show, you will get $5 off if you use the offer code PODCAST. That's PODCAST. Offer code when you buy it at matttalkonline.com/fanguide17. Over 200 pages of facts, stats, history. Every single wrestler competing in St. Louis, every single score all season long. History, 4-time All-Americans, 3-time national champions. Who's got the most All-Americans all time? Which coach has the most titles? How do they rank top 10? Everything in this guide, digitally delivered, optimized for your tablet and iPad, but it works just fine on your computer. And if you feel like going to Kinko's, you can print it out. It's going to be a lot of paper. But anyway, retailing at $19.99. You listen to this show, and any show on the Matt Talk Podcast Network with regularity, use the promo code, I'm going to say it really lightly now, podcast. Yep, use podcast. That way I know you're listening. You'll save $5. It is worth it. ESPN loves it. You've heard my sound bites on other shows about how much Adam Amin used this thing when he was the ESPN. I'm going to stop belaboring the point right now, and we'll get to our show. But matttalkonline.com/fanguide17, the guide. This thing, the most unbelievable Division I preview guide ever assembled, and it just keeps getting better every year. You'll want it for your fantasy contests. You'll want it for your knowledge bombs. You'll want it sitting there in the arena going, okay, hey, who's this guy? Boom, there he goes. Also got tweet your direct social media stuff right to it. It's an interactive guide. You'll be able to pop up a podcast that's related to who's going on and what's going on. You'll want to get this. matttalkonline.com/fanguide17, promo code podcast. Save yourself $5. You will not regret it.
You've always got time for short time.
Hey, it's Mario Lopez.
David Taylor.
Fred Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine. The one and only Chael Sonnen. And you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
Trying to
Same format as before. If you could do our microphone holders a favor and motion to them or motion to me and state your name, affiliation, and the coach you're directing the question towards first before asking your question. Beginning next to me and going to your right, our head coaches are Tom Brands of Iowa, Tom Ryan of Ohio State, Cale Sanderson of Penn State, Brian Smith of Missouri, and John Smith of Oklahoma State. We'll begin with opening remarks from each coach, beginning next to me with Tom Brands, and go down to the end of the table.
3-day tournament. We're ready to go. We're excited to be here. If you ask any of our guys, they'll tell you the same, and I'm not even speaking for them. We're ready to roll.
Tom Ryan of Ohio State.
Great to be representing the Buckeyes here again. Sitting up here with a guy at the end that I grew up watching, and then a guy that I had the blessing to wrestle with, and then a guy that I wish was on my team as a coach. A fellow Long Islander, so I'm up here with a great group of people, great group of men, and collectively, I know I mentioned something last year, but collectively we have 3 gold medals. We have 9 world titles and 9 NCAA titles, so it's good to be with this group. We are ready to wrestle. We're excited about it, and look forward to a great weekend here.
Cale Sanderson of Penn State.
Yeah, we're excited to be here just like everybody else, and we will find out in the next 3 days if our team's ready to go or not. But we're grateful for the opportunity. Thanks.
Brian Smith of Missouri.
Excited it's in Missouri. I mean, this is the 8th time it's been in this building. I think this year Tom would agree with me. being on the committee and the seating and the process that goes into running this tournament that I was here in the fall, and the people, collectively the people that put the time into this event, it's amazing to me. And I thank the Sports Commission in St. Louis and all the people from the NCAA for what they do. This is an amazing event.
And John Smith of Oklahoma State.
As Coach Smith was saying, the Sports Commission here really creating an atmosphere for the student athlete. It's really enjoyable, of course, you're a lot more happier if you're winning. But just the environment for the student athlete and how they go out of their way to kind of create a great environment has been really good for a lot of years. So as far as our team, we're ready. We look forward to the NCAA championships, and as we know, it's going to be a very competitive tournament.
We'll open it up for questions, please.
Garrett Carr, Black Shoe-Diaries. This is for Coach Sanderson. Coach, with the news that Nick Suriano is not going to wrestle and that kind of being over, can you give us kind of a timeline of, from the injury of Oklahoma State and what you guys were thinking at various times of his likelihood of being able to wrestle this weekend, and then, when ultimately was the decision made, and why did the decision go that way?
Well, we were trying to give him as much time as possible, and, it was going to be a day before type of decision, and we were trying to get him to a point where he would be competitive enough to compete and to protect himself, and I don't feel like he's in that position, so he's not going to wrestle.
This is Mike Finn for Win. This is a question for all the other coaches. With Suriano being injured, it's obviously an impact on this tournament. And is it just something that's part of the sport? Is there anything that ever can be done with the season? They've talked about making this a one-semester sport, that type of thing. Should there be a limited number of matches to prevent this from happening? Is it simply a wear and tear?
We'll start with Tom Brands here and move our way down the table.
Wear and tear, that's maybe part of the sport. I don't maybe look at it like that so much. I think in this case, and knowing who Nick Suriano is, we recruited him. I think he gets ready to go, and I think sometimes bad things happen to good wrestlers. It's unfortunate, and he'll deal with it going forward. I speak for him on that, I suppose. Not guessing his mindset. I'm sure he's not in the best spirits right now, but we know he's a competitor.
Tom Ryan.
This sport is certainly grueling. The season is long, but I think that as long as I've been in the sport, we've had student athletes get injured the first day of practice. We've had athletes get injured in competition. Midway through the season, we dealt last year with Hunter Stieber being hurt most of the year. It's hard on the team. It's hard on the individual. It's hard on the family. Like Tom, we recruited Suriano. He's got a great family. You feel for them, but he's a winner, I'm sure, and it's a tough situation.
Next, Cale Sanderson.
Poor Nick. Everyone, it's a press conference about him. You get hurt, injuries happen, life happens, right? But life is good, and life's good. Nick has a lot to be grateful for, and he has 3 years to terrorize college wrestling and international wrestling after that. So, it is what it is. He got injured. It happens, and life goes on.
Brian Smith.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the length of the season is the answer. I lost a 2-time All-American in the second duel this year for the season. So I think with the training and the knowledge of training that goes on now, and the nutritionists and the strength coaches we have, these athletes are more prepared than I know when I was back wrestling. So I think it's just unfortunate. It's a tough sport, and I feel for Nick and what happened with him, but it's a part of our sport.
And John Smith.
They said enough. So, just sometimes we might think that our sport's grueling. There's a lot of sports that are grueling and tough, and so we've all lost guys in February that didn't wrestle at nationals, and it is unfortunate. But just kind of what Cale said, it's part of sport. And life's good. Keep going.
Nate Cobbler with the Center Daily Times. Coaches, all of you guys can answer this. I know the NWCA Dual Championship Series has come under some scrutiny, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think another wrestler last year got injured in those series, and the same thing happened this year. But can you guys talk a little bit about, what maybe could be done with that to where, in an unfortunate event like this would happen?
We'll start with Tom Brands and make our way down the table. Tom?
Here's the thing with the national duels. It's maybe a good event. Maybe needs to be tweaked a little bit more. I'm a big fan of dual meets. Dual meets are important. Just not sure that our format's the best. But I do know the impact that big marquee matchups have. And a lot's been said about Penn State, Oklahoma State, and Stillwater at the end of February. That was a big event. That was a big duel. That was a big crowd. And that's important. But I also think that timing could maybe be better. And it's going to be discussed a lot. There's a lot on the agenda for the national duels. Is the NCAA going to take it up and make it part of the team scoring, team component, where dual meets actually bring in points to this tournament? That's going to be discussed. That's not too far away. So be a lot more information going forward after this tournament.
Tom Ryan?
Obviously, I'm a strong proponent of the adding value, greater value to dual meets. It's challenging. There's a lot of moving parts to it. But I do believe that somehow we've got to continue to be creative in the sport, to grow it, to increase our fan base. And I personally believe that the dual meet is the way to do that. A lot of great things happened this year. 42,000 people in Iowa City went to a duel. Penn State selling out. We had 16,000 people to dual meet. So we know that they have great value. The question is, how do you add a season-ending value to a dual meet? I think that's the big question. So, and how do you add a sting, a greater sting to a loss during the season rather than what it is? It's a loss that to some degree plays no role at all in the national championship. So going forward, I'd like to see us solve this problem as a sport.
Cale Sanderson.
What are we talking about? National duels?
National duels.
I don't really want to talk about national duels. I think numbers speak for themselves, and this was by far, it's got to be the bet. Well, Iowa kind of messed that up by having a 40-something thousand, dual meet. But overall, I think dual meet wise, big duels, this has got to be the best year in the history of college wrestling, right? And, so the sport's growing. Dual meets are important to our fans. They're important to us as coaches. They're important to the student athletes that participate in them. And I think, we agree on a lot of things. I think it's important for the future of the sport, keep those dual meets, but getting bigger and bigger and getting them on TV, and that's what's happening right now. So just keep rolling.
Brian Smith.
Yeah, I'm a proponent for the duels. I really like seeing the growth of it. I was watching a couple duels down in Oklahoma State in the crowds and at Iowa. I know in our place, our fan base continues to grow. So I think it's important just because of the team concept that it brings and people coming in for a 2-hour event that's made for TV, that we have to keep growing it.
And John Smith.
I think what Cale said, just from the standpoint, it was a great year. Just everywhere it was just real successful, and sometimes we think everything's going wrong when actually it's going right. If we can't make a decision on dual meets between the coaches, then it needs to be taken out of our hands, So I think in the future, maybe we shouldn't be making these decisions of what we're doing, if we can't agree. And I think we can find, pretty mutual agreement if some common sense is made, and it may not help my team, but in the long run, to continue to grow the sport and continue to create exciting dual meets, that's what needs to happen. And if we can't get it done, then hopefully somebody will.
Further questions about this particular championship event, please.
Mark Jolkover with Flow Wrestling. This question's for Coach Brands. You guys had the #1 recruiting class coming through, and this is your seniors now after 5 years. Talk a little bit about the impact those guys have had on your program and what you'd like to see, obviously, as they finish their careers.
Great group of guys, great leadership, fun to be around, fun to coach. They are one of a kind. And when you say that, and it comes out of my mouth, that's real, meaning you don't just say that they come from a great family, they have great morals and ethics, but they do, and it's real. Couldn't say enough about them, and we'll have a banquet at the end of the year to honor them, and that's where all that will get said and demonstrated. There'll be a lot of fun there. But the other thing about this group is they're here to compete. So let your best wrestling shine right now.
Audrey Dahlgren, KCK St. Louis. This is for Coach Brian Smith. Jaden was very genuine in his response to this being the last time he's going to wear the black and gold on his shoulders. For you as his head coach and being around him for so long, what's your reaction and emotion to coaching him in a weekend like this?
Let's have a good weekend. But no, I've known him since he was 4. Hanging out in my office, reading books, children's books, and he grew up going to the youth club in our wrestling room, and then I coached him in football. So we have a strong relationship, and he's a special young man, and what he's done, not only for wrestling, but for the University of Missouri. We went through some hard times, and here's this kid that just shines a light because he's willing to write songs and sing them for fundraisers and be a outspoken person of just how to live your life and making an Olympic team. And he's just a special young man that just does it the right way.
This question's for Tom Brands. Tom, you just talked about your recruiting class a little bit. The centerpiece of that class, Spencer Lee, suffered his first loss in his high school career on Saturday. Have you spoken with Spencer? It's probably one of the first big disappointments in his wrestling career. And what's your plan for him preliminarily going forward to next year in terms of a red shirt or not?
Did I misunderstand your question? Okay. All right. Well, good. Okay. Well, first of all, one comment on that. Spencer Lee is a competitor. He's going forward, and he'll be just fine.
Dan Lobdell, Flow Wrestling. This one's for Coach Smith. You mentioned after Big 12s that you guys had some record-breaking performances this year at Scuffle and at Big 12s. Do you guys feel that you're going to need to tie a record this year as far as Minnesota's 10 All-Americans to get the national championship here?
Where are you at? Oh, say that again.
Do you think that you guys
are looking for you the whole time?
Do you guys think that you're going to need to tie Minnesota's record of 10 All-Americans to get the national championship here?
This is John Smith.
I think you're probably right. I think we're going to need to count on all 10. I'm not sure, where they place is going to make a big difference. So, we have some numbers here that, and we have positioned ourselves well after the Big 12, gave ourselves an opportunity, and that's all I was asking for, and they responded. So, yeah, I think for us, we need to count on all 10. Anything less, it may be a little bit tough for us.
Any further questions for the head coaches? Go ahead.
Okay. Cal, this is Mike Vick. I know you've talked many times about this tournament moving on to the loss of Suriano. You still have a relatively young team, all and nickel, that type of thing. Can you talk about the mindset this team has gone through this year when you guys were on a roll and then you hit a roadblock because of this? Have you had to talk with them anything differently than you would at any other time this year?
Well, it's been a great year. We've had a lot of fun, had some great dual meets, and we have just an awesome group of guys, and most of them are back. We lose, I think, our 41-pounder. But yeah, we have some exciting years ahead of us, but this year's not over, right? We have as good a chance as anybody to win right now, and to win the national tournament, you got to wrestle great. If we wrestle great, we're going to win. If Ohio State wrestles great, they're going to win. Oklahoma State, Iowa, so that's fun. That's what we want. So we're not looking forward to next year yet.
Was there any doubt, though, that came in after, say, the injury and that type of thing with the team, and maybe not winning the Big Ten from multiple parties?
Well, I think, anytime you have somebody get hurt, I mean, Nick Sirianno had very lofty goals, and, he's wrestling great and getting better, and so you want to see him, his goals he's not a guy that hopes he can win when he's a senior, right? He wanted to win as a freshman, and he's doing awesome. It's tough for him, tough for his family, tough for the team because we're a close team, and then we feel bad for each other. We want to see each other be successful. It's also a chance for the rest of the guys to step up and score additional points, right? I don't think we wrestled terribly at the Big Ten. We just got beat, right? I mean, we had a couple guys that could have won a match or two that they didn't, but we won some tough matches also. So it's not that we didn't wrestle well. We just got beat. Ohio State wrestled great, and to win this tournament, you got to wrestle great. That's what it should be. It's a national tournament. You want to be national champions, you got to wrestle great the weekend of the national championship. So we're excited and grateful that we still have a chance to compete for a championship. We have individuals with gold, just like everybody else up here, and we'll see what happens over the next 3 days.
This one's for Coach Ryan. This is Dan Lobdell from Flow Wrestling again. Coach Ryan, can you talk about the importance of your upper weight? Seems like the team's kind of built from the top down, so to speak. So could you just kind of expand on the importance of 74 to 285 as far as your guys' title hopes this weekend?
We have 9 here, and we need for all 9 to score, and all 9 can score. Last 2 weekends ago at the Big Tens, we happened to win some really tight, close matches. And that's what this weekend will boil down to as well. The quarterfinal matches, the semifinal matches. Last weekend we felt like we needed 6 in the finals to win, and at least 5. We happened to get 6. This weekend, I think it'll take 4. So, and as you look at the brackets, we're going to have to beat some really good people. Our guys are excited about it. When you have an Olympic champion on your team that's a junior, the standard is incredibly high. For the rest of the guys, young guys coming in, we're not talking about a group of guys that want to qualify. They've got someone walking around the room that's won an Olympic gold medal, so the standard's high. When you have a guy like a Logan Stever that won 4 titles, the standard isn't get 1, it's get a lot. It's get multiple. So, the culture in the room right now is really strong, and that's critical for us. And it's hopefully this weekend these guys wrestle with the grit and the fire and the excitement they did 2 weekends ago. And if they do, we have a chance. If they don't, we don't.
This is Jason Bryant with Matt Tuck Online. This question's for Coach Ryan. Did you discover anything about your team 2 weeks ago at the Big Ten Championships that made you sit there and go, man, we really, really do have a good chance to win this thing in St. Louis?
Not really. I think throughout the year, we knew we had a really good team. We had some guys get hurt, just were hurt during the year, and really never put a full lineup out there until the Big Tens. But we knew that, we knew some guys would really step up. But when you have a Kyle Snyder, you've seen him, expectations rise when the person or team continues to deliver in multiple situations. So when you have a Kyle Snyder, you feel pretty good about him. Bo Jordan has always been really good when he's been in there. So same thing with Nathan Tomasello. So when you've got guys like that, you feel really good about your team and where you are. So we're going to have to wrestle really tough this weekend, and they should trust their preparation and be excited about it, because it's an exciting time, right?
This question's for anyone who wants to take it, but can you guys address your training cycles as you guys kind of move from your conference tournaments into the NCAAs, and what are you doing now, or what have you learned kind of throughout the season?
We'll start closest with me and begin with Tom Brands.
Peking's a mindset, and most important time of year. It's a 3-day tournament. Got to feel good, and you got to be at your best. So however you adjust to get those things accomplished, that's what you do. A lot of it's individual, but a lot of it's pretty much common sense too. Maybe.
Tom Ryan.
So, yeah, I would say 3 components, right? You've got a physical component, and we watch that closely as a staff. You've got an emotional component. You can't say one thing to somebody at the beginning of the year and then just kind of change the way you talk to them at the end of the year. There's always love. There's always a positive element to what they're doing. And then I believe there's a spiritual element. And I think that the guys that really have that sense of there's something bigger than them and greater than them, those guys in the past, those are the ones I've seen really, really do well. It's a wrestling tournament. They love the sport, but it doesn't define them. It reduces stress. And so we focus on all 3 of those components.
Cale Sanderson.
We're confident in our system, but every year is a new year. Every tournament's it's a new day. Kids have to make the decision to wrestle great. And so for us, it's just making sure we have a clear purpose and focus, and we know it's our responsibility to make it happen if that's what we choose to do. So we'll find out.
I did not know you
find
were
out.
We'll now move on to Brian Smith.
I'm not just sorry.
You know what? I told my team a story. One of my guys texted me the other night, and he said, "Coach, I remember this story." And he wrestled for me about 10 or 12 years ago. And he said, "I remember you telling us a story of the first singlet you bought for your son and how he put it on every day. And he would put it on, and I'd get home from work, and he would run around the house, and we'd have to wrestle and wrestle and wrestle." And I told my team this story the other day. I said, "You got to remember that we've been doing this training your whole life. You've been competing your whole life. It's just have fun. Remember when you put that first singlet on, go to this event, wrestle with energy and have fun. Like Dad's coming home from work and you get to wrestle with him and enjoy it. And remember how you felt like that, putting that first singlet on." And I think that's our team right now. The mindset is they're very relaxed. They enjoy it. They enjoy each other, and they're ready to have some fun this weekend.
Lastly, John Smith.
Well, I think, it's the same attitude. You just get to the end of the year and you need to be different, and you need to have a different athlete, different wrestler. That's what I call peaking. It's not so much what you do, and if your training is different, I don't know if we're training any different. I think it's just a matter of an athlete recognizing he's had a full year of competition and has dealt with adversity, whether it be injuries or defeats or even trying to make the starting team. So I just think, attitude needs to change in postseason. And when you see that attitude change in an athlete and recognizing that I'm going to wrestle better than I've wrestled all year, it's that simple. I think that's why, guys like Kyle Snyder or Cale Sanderson or Tom Brands here, at the highest level in our sport can go and win Olympic gold medals, is because when they get there, attitude changes and they're prepared and have had a season of issues that have strengthened them. And for us, I think that's where we're at. We're ready to wrestle our best we wrestled all year.
Any final questions for our head coaches? That concludes today's press conference. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and enjoy the event.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.